The figure sitting on the chair was wearing ordinary clothes, but the whole person's appearance was blocked by a layer of strange energy. Yang Kai used his spiritual mind, but he can't see his true face. However, Yang Kai felt that the other party was a little familiar, as if he had seen him somewhere. This discovery made Yang Kai frown. If he didn't guess wrong, this person should be the mysterious leader of the corpse spirit religion. But Yang Kai couldn't feel any corpse chi from him. In other words, he was not from the corpse spirit race at all. Could it be that it is really like what Yang Yan said, that this guy was the one who fought against Yang Yan back then? He mastered the method of transforming and controlling the corpse spirit race, so he could stand above them. While Yang Kai was pondering, the man suddenly left, gently stroked his palm, and said in an approving tone, "You really found this place, and you are not afraid." Hearing the voice of this person, Yang Kai raised his brows, his expression became weird, his eyes were deep, and he stared straight at him, as if to penetrate the barrier and see his true face clearly. The other party didn't even intend to conceal it. The strange power on his face gradually dissipated, revealing a handsome face. "Lu Yi?" Yang Kai sipped. This guy has shockingly plotted against him several times, and even wanted to kill this Flowing Cloud Valley young master Lu Yi himself. The first time he dealt with him was when Flowing Flame Sandfield is opened, competing for the red candle fruit. Lu Yi secretly tried to assassinate him. Yang Kai fought him for a while, cut off his arm, but he was able to escape. Later, there was a battle at Dragon Cave Mountain, with Lu Yi behind the Xie family. It was Lu Yi who instigated Jie Li and others to attack Dragon Cave Mountain. Yang Kai didn't know what animosity he had with Lu Yi at all, making him looking for trouble with him. In the past, Yang Kai thought that he was simply hating him, but now, Yang Kai suddenly had a flash of light in his mind, connecting all kinds of clues together, and a bold conjecture emerged in his heart. "Perhaps I shouldn't call you Lu Yi. After all, this is just your body after you seized it." Yang Kai's mouth raised a slight arc, with a firm expression. Lu Yi, sitting in the chair, was stunned for a moment, as if some secret had been said, and looked at Yang Kai with some surprise. "You guessed it. It seems this king is underestimating you. Is it difficult?" Yang Kai chuckled lightly. "The first time you and I met was at the soul-cleansing divine water in Flowing Flame Sandfield. I got a piece of void mind crystal from there, and you will never forget it." "So, the void mind crystal is yours?" Lu Yi's originally handsome and peaceful face suddenly became hideous, and the blue veins on the back of his hand piled up. He shouted sharply, "Yes. That is the void mind crystal of this king. Where is it? Why this king has not been able to sense its aura?" This incident was simply Lu Yi's nightmare. If it hadn't been for Yang Kai take away the void mind crystal. After he seizes the body, he only needs to fuse with his own void mind crystal, and at least he can recover half of his strength in an instant. Even if the heaven and earth laws of the Shadowed Star suppress him, and he cannot break through the Void King realm on the spot, but a character like him, leaving Shadowed Star with a Void Return stage peak is not a big problem. Just find a place to retreat for decades, and restore the original cultivation level is not a dream. By then, the entire star territory will be his world. But everything that was wonderful was ruined by Yang Kai. He couldn't sense the existence of his own void mind crystal, let alone retrieve it, which was the crystallization and essence of his life of cultivation. Without that, with the aptitudes of Lu Yi's body, it would be difficult for him to restore his strength. It has been many years, and he could only cultivate to the third order void return stage, which made him simply unbearable. "I'm sorry, that thing has merged with me." Yang Kai smiled and pointed his finger at his head. "Impossible." Lu Yi vetoed, looking at Yang Kai contemptuously as if looking at an ant, and sneered, "With your strength, you want to merge with the void mind crystal of this king." The divine soul that robbed Lu Yi's body was at the same level as Starry's Star Great Emperor before his death. The void mind crystal he left behind were naturally of extremely high grade. Even if the Void King realm rashly tried to merge with it, he will be broken through the consciousness sea, and his divine soul will be extinguished entirely. At that time, Yongkai had only the cultivation level of First Order Void Return stage. How could it be merged? Lu Yi obviously wouldn't believe this kind of nonsense. He only thought that Yongkai was lying, and used some special means to hide the Void Mind Crystal so that he could not sense it. Believe it or not is up to you. Yongkai shrugged nonchalantly. Of course, he didn't have the obligation and need to explain clearly to the other party. There is such a treasure as Mild Soul Lotus, and it doesn't need him to do anything to integrate with the Mind Void Crystal. Even he only know that the Crystal Stone at that time was a Void Mind Crystal after a long time have passed. Stop talking nonsense. Since you are here today, don't even think about leaving. Where is the Void Mind Crystal of this king? As long as you have been captured, do I have to be afraid that I won't have the opportunity to ask? Lu Yi snorted coldly. The aura on his body suddenly became violent and evil. Yongkai laughed loudly, boasting shamelessly before dying. Lu Yi was startled when he heard this. The next moment, the whole corpse cave suddenly shook with the mountain, and from above, an extremely sharp aura slowly penetrated into it. The aura was so strong that Lu Yi's whole body was imprisoned, so he could not move, and his face was ugly, stood in place. Boom. The ground seemed to split, and a huge sound spread from above the ground, but within a short time, the hole appeared above the palace where Yongkai and Lu Yi were located, and a figure sprang out from the hole, and a palm shot toward Lu Yi. Lu Yi's face changed drastically, his own chi potential field was urged crazily, and he wanted to get rid of that overwhelming aura. But in front of this palm, all he did was nothing but futile. The chi potential field was easily shattered, the palm prints fell, and Lu Yi only had time to let out a scream, and the whole person was imprinted as a pool of flesh, red and white, dripping all over the ground. Xianxia fell down, a little suspicious on his face, and glanced at Yongkai. Yongkai also looked surprised. The two obviously did not expect that Lu Yi would be pinched to death like this. Is this the religion master of the corpse spirit religion? Xianxia asked in amazement. Yongkai nodded. Yes, it's him. The old man overestimated him. Xianxia snorted coldly. Although he hadn't put the leader of the corpse spirit religion in his eyes, he did not expect that the other party would be killed so easily, which made him feeling like punching some soft cotton. Yongkai didn't say anything, but there was always an uneasy feeling in his heart. He always felt in his subconscious that Lu Yi could not die so easily. After all, he had escaped with his life under Yang Yan's hands without her noticing. Even if Xianxia is a strong man in the Void King realm, how can he compare to this guy in terms of his level of cunning and slyness? Thinking of this, Yongkai was shocked and quickly released his spiritual mind, spreading crazily outward. Under his spiritual mind perception, the situation of the entire buried mighty valley was fully understood in an instant. Leisurely, he noticed that a vague aura was escaping outwards at an incredible speed, extremely concealed. If he hadn't been suspicious and deliberately probed, he would really be unable to find it. And when this aura flees, there is a hint of space force fluctuations. Elder Jian. Yongkai gave a sharp low voice, suddenly peeped his hands forward, plunged into the void, and then violently tore to the sides, and a space crack immediately formed. Xianxia frowned. Although he didn't understand why Yongkai did this, he subconsciously chose to believe him. Without even asking, he and Yongkai went directly into the space crack. Outside the buried mighty valley, a corpse in a black robe was meditating and adjusting his aura in a hidden place. He seemed to have been sitting here for a long time without any movement. At a certain moment, this black-clothed corpse general suddenly shook his whole body, and his concealed aura climbed steadily, all the way to the peak of the Third Order Void Return stage, which was not much worse than Yixian. He slowly opened his eyes with a look of bitterness and shock, and his pupils gritted his teeth and roared, "Void King Realm! It is the Void King Realm! How could there be a Void King Realm here? Old things, this king remembers you. One day, the revenge in the palm of the hand will be returned by this king. You have no chance." A familiar voice suddenly came from behind. The Black Corpse General was shocked and turned his head abruptly. He saw a space crack opening silently, and Xianxia and Qiantong stepped out of it. The corpse in black was shocked. Without even thinking about it, he immediately roared and wanted to flee. Where to run? Qiantong shouted angrily. His domain suddenly expanded, and he immediately wrapped the black-clothed corpse in it. Xianxia didn't do anything, just staring at the black-clothed corpse while turning his spiritual mind to the limit, watching his movements. The black-clothed corpse general, Xianxia, had seen him before, and the white-clothed corpse general Kong Fei Ra should be his fellow disciple, but at this moment, he was occupied by the divine soul who had previously seized Lu Yi's body, and he seemed to have become another person. Although the cultivation level of the peak of Third Order Void Return stage is strong, it is nothing in front of Qiantong. At the moment when the body of the black-clothed corpse was beaten up, and the soul was destroyed, Xianxia noticed that a hidden aura showed a tendency to leap in space, and it left the original place and went to a place hundreds of miles away. There is no pause in the middle. That was obviously the aura of the religion master of the corpse spirit religion. If it were not for Xianxia's space force, it would be impossible to detect such a change. Qiantong turned his head and looked at Xianxia after he killed the black-clothed corpse. Xianxia did not say a word, and once again tore the space apart. The next moment, the two appeared hundreds of miles away. Just after stepping out of the crack in the space, Xianxia and Qiantong saw another corpse general, fleeing wildly into the distance. Without waiting for Qiantong's hands, Xianxia sacrificed more than a dozen golden blood threads. The golden blood threads were entangled to form a golden arrow, shattering the void, and piercing the corpse general's abdomen. The hole shattered his corpse beads. The golden blood spun around and flew back again. Xianxia didn't have the joy of killing a powerful enemy, but his face was gloomy, tearing the space for the third time. To be continued.